here from Santo Domingo. Let me just share this with my colleagues. So the title of this live is Executive Men in their 40s and 50s Dating Hell and How to Escape It. So this might be a surprising topic for anyone tuning in here. You might think a man who is an executive in his 40s and 50s, who has a secretary, maybe multiple secretaries, who maybe earns a very high salary, who maybe has a lot of social respect, who maybe has maybe a house, maybe a second apartment somewhere. It might surprise you to learn that some of these guys have abysmal dating lives. I mean abysmal. Some of these guys are incredibly lonely. Some of these guys have got, frankly, nobody. They've got nobody in their lives. Despite the success, despite the secretaries, despite the office, despite the title, they have actually got nobody who gives a fuck about them. Nobody who gives a fuck about them. They've got authority and work and so on, but outside of that, when they clock out, they go back to an empty apartment. They drive back to an empty apartment. They look forward to a Christmas break where, apart from maybe aging, ailing parents, they have no one and nobody to be around, no family, no beautiful, attractive woman to spend their Christmas with. It's actually a surprisingly common scenario. It's a surprisingly common scenario. In my other line of work, I've encountered many men like this, and it's I won't say it's quite the norm, but it's there's a big bracket. I don't know, but I'd say about 30% of these executives are like this. Same with CEOs as well. Got disastrous personal lives, really disastrous, and they've indexed everything on success. They've indexed everything on their professional, their professional acumen. I'm just going to make my tea here. They've indexed everything on their professional acumen, their professional success, but often are just still clueless in the realm of women, clueless in the realm of relationships. And it's not a case of like, and then even if they do try to get advice, the advice out there in the world is so fucking abysmal that they're just left between a rock and a hard place. So first of all, I'm just going to break down why these guys actually, why some. Okay, we're on the live. Why some of these people actually do have such bad dating lives, and I think it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. That's something I thought about, but unfortunately it's only going to get worse. So, as I say, these guys are people who have pushed themselves, have done everything right, they've climbed the ladder, and they've managed to get to a level of success, managed to get a level of influence in the corporate world, but they have struggled in their personal lives, and maybe always been a little bit dissatisfied with what they actually got access to. The caliber of women they actually got access to. It does not follow that because you earn $500,000, $1 million a year, it does not follow that the baddies are going to pull their pants down for you. That does not follow at all. The female vagina is not activated by numbers on a screen, in your bank balance. The female vagina does not get wet for just a pile of $50 notes on the floor. I don't know why people think this, to be honest, because it's just stupid. There's just no evidence for it at all. Money it's not something that's biological. It's not something that is, it's not something that even existed in our evolutionary past. So it doesn't really make sense that our mating strategy would be that related to money, at least on the front end, the sexual end. So I think most guys deep down know this. And there's this kind of strange fantasies it's a little bit American, in my opinion. There's a much more transactional culture in all relationships in the US. Julius Evola talked about it in the 20th century. He's an interesting writer. It's not to critique the US, but it was so successful in its mercantilism, which came off the back of the British mercantile model and just took it to an entirely different level, that it seems to have permeated the whole culture. So people think in the US you can just basically buy a woman's affection. It just doesn't fucking work. And I think because of social media, people in Europe used to know this, right? You know, your French seducers have always known this. But I think because of social media, it's kind of spread across a little bit. And it's just incorrect. Okay, so that one's just got to go. Just burn that to the ground. It's just bollocks. A woman doesn't get hot just for a bank account. Okay, it definitely helps if you've got a nice apartment. It definitely helps if you're well dressed. And these things obviously take money. But fundamentally, it's not. Her pussy does not get wet. She doesn't get sexually excited for that. And the girls that are true gold diggers who just want your money, you don't want them anyway because they don't want you. So, you know, and I think executive guys, they're usually intelligent, educated guys. They've been through the system. They understand. They don't want just some tramp gold digger, like literal, basically a prostitute, which is basically what a gold digger is. It's essentially a prostitute. They don't want that. They want to have a better picture than that. So that's the first thing. You know, just money does not equate to women getting wet. It does not equate to women getting hot under the collar. Unless you're fucking completely retarded, you already know this. The other reasons, though, are more subtle. So one of them, I would say, relates to, there's two things really. One of them, there's a few things. One of them is, if you're just working so much, you're focused on work so much, it's very easy to let your personal life just skate by, just to glide by and escape you, and not really focus in on it, not really focus in with attention on your personal and social life. And this is a mistake that's easy to make because you're rewarded financially the more you focus, and the more you focused on work. So it makes sense that people would do that. Again, Anglo-American culture is very big on this. I've noticed the execs in other countries. I've noticed they innately, culturally gravitate to a bit more of a balance. But it's not necessarily just business people as well. You can have, I've seen it in the sciences as well, in like university departments. I had an ex-girlfriend who was, she was from Seville. She was a molecular biologist, and she went traveling with a bunch of English scientists, and she absolutely couldn't stand them because she said, we're in bloody Ecuador. We're literally going around the Galapagos Islands, and all you're doing is talking about your research. It's just like, just live the moment. You know, we can talk about the research when we get back to the labs. And so maybe there's a cultural thing as well. And the last thing I'll say on this point in terms of scheduling and workload and stuff, if work is going well and your personal life is a failure, it's very easy to just over-index where you're getting success. It makes sense to do that in a way, but that will ultimately hollow out your life because you're like, well, I'm good at this. I can do this. Let's focus on this. But if you don't see the other side, it will hollow you out. So that'll be the first thing, just the time commitment and the mentality. The next thing I would describe as, this is where the stream's going to start to get hot, is I would describe as kind of liberal corporate culture, which is prevalent certainly in all of the Anglosphere, and also a liberal education. Okay, everyone who's educated in the Western world, with no exceptions, is educated in I would describe as historically abnormal and radically liberal paradigm. You know, I'm not going to go down the route of the education system, but that's maybe for another conversation. And then obviously that filters into companies themselves, and you've got this If you look back to let's say go back to the 1950s, for example, Mad Men and all of that, you had a very macho, manly corporate culture. Now it's gone the complete opposite way. You've got this kind of namby-pamby nonsense, like just nonsense corporate culture, which is corporate life is already constraining enough in some ways physically, but now it's psychologically constraining, and it's actually psychologically castrating as well. And so, yeah, guys, if you're in that day in day out, minding your p's and q's, I get it, because I have a professional job as well, and my biggest saving grace is the independence, but I do get what it is to live like that day in day out. And I think in the corporate world, it's become it's just become a very bullshit world. It's become a world of just acting. It's become a world where men just cannot be men at all, and your success depends on you being a eunuch, effectively, a unit of economics, a unit of intellect. Your success doesn't really depend on your charisma. It doesn't really depend on your your masculine machismo at all. In fact, that's actually going to be a negative. You're expected to put up with Karens. You've got to deal with these people, and that has a corrosive effect on a man's soul. It has a corrosive effect on a man's soul. I don't know if he's on the live, but one of my friends, SB, he talked about how he's worked in environments where women were in positions of authority, and it's like they get into this weird. Women do this, man. They shouldn't. This is why they mostly shouldn't have power, because they really get into this weird, domineering sort of like. They really don't know how to wield power. They wield it as if they're wielding it over an infant, whereas many men have a natural leadership quality where they know full well if they just try and domineer all the other guys, the guys will turn on them really quickly, possibly physically, but certainly they'll just be abandoned. Whereas they know, male leaders innately know it's got to be a combination of, yeah, the guys, maybe there's a little bit of force in the background there, but it's mostly cooperative and collaborative. And it's mostly genuine as well. And so, yes, anyway, just dealing with these like middle-aged corporate old hags who are just bitter and twisted, or just dealing with female like leaders who in most cases are not designed, I would argue, psychologically to lead. There are exceptions, so I don't talk in absolutes, but I would say 80% of women, they're not built to lead. But yeah, okay, 20% are fine. And this is to be fair to those girls. Not like any women watch my live, so I don't really give a shit. But you don't want to go down a blanket statement of like, no woman is correct to lead. That's not true. Some of them have their own style. It's a kind of serene style of leadership. I've seen that. It's not the same as the male style, and I don't think it's as effective at being dynamic. But there's definitely women who can lead. But anyway, so you're dealing with this, right? This kind of abiological situation that, as I say, biologically, we just wouldn't be in. You put 20 men in the middle of nature and 20 women, and the leadership hierarchy is, in almost every case, it's going to be obvious. It's just going to be the men who are in charge. The women are going to go and do the easy work, and the men are going to go and do all the hard shit, and then they're going to have the authority as well. That's just how it is. And it's not going to be, it's not going to be the rule of the beta males and the women. And so there's alpha males who go into the corporate world and they kind of slowly get sanded down and grinded down by this beta environment. Okay, you make your money, that's great. Can you just take that hat off at the end of the day at work and then go into your roving seducer mode, yeah? Your BDSM Christian Grey mode. Yeah, you can, but you're going to have to learn to do it. You can, but you're going to have to learn to do it. Really going to have to learn to make that switch from, the corporate eunuch over to, the seducer mode. And obviously I'm talking in a kind of slightly extreme, it sounds slightly extreme, but if you're in that environment, you will understand what I'm saying. You'll understand what I mean. So So yeah, so those are some of the reasons that guys can have struggles in their personal life, and it's something I've seen a lot of. And then if they look out into the culture, maybe they've had a divorce or something, the only angle they're going to get is, well, women saying, in the TV and our stupid culture saying, oh, you should have spent more time with your wife, you should have been more accommodating, you should have listened to her feelings. It's absolute bullshit. When the actual fact is, no, you should have shown more leadership. You should have had more polarizing sex. You should have tied her up and whipped her. Yeah, you should have had her as your assistant, yeah, instead of you being her slave, right? So, or thinking it's equal. And that's the last thing I'll come on to here is the notion of equality. The notion of equality. Equality has a functional purpose in front of the law in in modern society. We should be equal before the law, meaning, people aren't they don't have impunity towards crime just because they're an executive or something. So equality before the law, potentially equality in voting, although I don't agree with that. But it doesn't actually, if you think about it, it doesn't actually make sense. But that's also something that is seen as significant in our culture. Any other types of equality? Those would be the main ones. The main one is equality before the law. But everything else, the notion of equality is such a flawed notion. Obviously, it comes from Marx, which comes from some deeper places as well. If you take it, you want to take a look at the roots of Marxism and where that comes from and the culture it comes from. Very, very interesting. But the main driving thing there is that all men and women are equal. All cultures are equal. All peoples are equal. And anything that gets in the way of that is somehow oppressive and heinous. And it's just self-evidently stupid, right? It's just self-evidently stupid. So equality itself is it doesn't make sense in any other realm other than equality before the law and equal rights. Yeah, that makes sense. It seems decent, it seems fair, it makes rational sense. It's how we would live in a tribe, and it's how we should live in a large society. But actual equality is total fucking bullshit. So if you think we're all equal, go down to the running track on the day of the Olympic finals and see if you can keep up with those guys, right? I think you'll find we're quite unequal, if you go and do that. And similarly, I'm sure those guys, if they came to do your job in the doctor's surgery and found out how completely clueless they are, they'd also agree, yeah, we are not all equal. You have knowledge and training and maybe even ability that I don't have, and vice versa, right? So every person has his or her own profile. We are not equal. We are just not equal. It's a stupid thing to even. There is no equality in nature. It's a stupid thing to even. Such a stupid idea, and yet it's so widespread. Like, on some things we're more or less equal, but on some things we're radically not equal. And so one of the biggest innate inequalities is between the sexes, between male and female. Obviously, I don't need to explain this. I'm a man, it's not equal. I can't have fucking children. It's not equal. It's also not equal that a woman who's 50 cannot have children, while a man who's 50 can have several children. It is not equal. We are not biologically equal. It's not equal that men are stronger than women. It's not equal that men die before women. It's not equal that we have 10 times the testosterone that they do. Yeah, it's not equal. Our entire bone structure is different. Yeah, nothing is equal, and our brains are not equal either. Yeah, that's another thing as well. High-level problem solving. The savant autist Elon Musk style rocket making. Yeah, there will never be a female version of that. It will never happen. It won't. Even if you have one complete freak outlier who has the mental capacity, which won't happen either. But even if you had that, they won't have the physical testosterone to to compete and ascend to that level, because it's just too like these guys like the guy's a complete freak. You know, like, oh yes, we're twice as likely to succeed if we work 100 hours a week as if we work 50. It's like, yeah, dude, you're also twice as likely to die. Yeah, a woman is not going to put herself through that, even if she has the mental capacity, which, as I said, she already doesn't. But it's just so these great outliers, these great male outliers, you will never have female outliers like that. Yeah, it's not to say they can't achieve things and do great things, but it's just not fucking equal. So when it comes to psychology of dating and mating, of course, it's not equal. We see on TikTok all of these. I'm coming back to the executive stuff in a moment, but you see on TikTok and all these women complaining about how they're like they've made it in life, they've got a property, they're a homeowner. Fucking hilarious. Only an American girl would say that. I'm a homeowner. They're in shape. I think I'm really beautiful. All my friends say I'm beautiful, and it's like, and I just can't find a guy. And you're just looking at it as a man going, love, you're 38. What were you doing at 28? What were you doing at 22? What were you doing at 25? I'm sorry, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm not dating a 38-year-old dude. No interest, dude. It like, they don't get it. They should, at that age, they should be going for a 50-year-old who probably has children, who doesn't want children. It's like, you're you're 2 or 3 years away from complete infertility. Why would a man be attracted to you? Just look at it from a biological point of view, yeah, to the girls. Why are men and women attracted to each other? Because we're a sexually dimorphic species. Okay, that means there's two sexes, we're not asexual. And what is it that men are attracted to ultimately? Even though we don't think of it like this, ultimately we're attracted to fertility, which is why we lust after 20, 25-year-old women, maybe 30, not lust after 30-year-old, we'll go for 30-year-old women, but we lust after the 25-year-old woman and not the 65-year-old woman. Why is that? It's fertility. Not even a 45-year-old woman. Again, it's fertility. And to the extent an older woman is hot, it's to the extent that she resembles a younger woman. And so this is no shade on women. Like the peak of womanhood at a young age is very, very high. Like it's higher maybe than men ever get to, but it's very short-lived. It's like a flower that blooms, and it's short-lived. Men, we're like the oaks. We slowly grow into our attractiveness. We start to peak in our late 20s, and then it just kind of goes realistically until about your early 50s. This is the feedback I've had from people. Your overall attractiveness. And then obviously it tapers off. You know, my 72-year-old wingman, he's not delusional, right? He knows he's no longer what he was, right, in terms of his attractiveness. And so, yeah, anyway, so these women are confused. And this whole paradigm of equality is so corrosive. And professional men, educated men, have been educated in this their entire lives. Their entire lives, from cradle to fucking grave, since World War II. There's a whole historical thing that happened after World War II where the European powers got... I will get back. If you're on my live, you know this is the type of shit I'm going to talk about. But there's a whole historical thing that happened after World War II where the European powers, they basically they were completely decimated, and it was obvious that the Soviet Union and the US were the new powers. They were the new kings of the world, the two largest countries, the two most powerful economies, and then obviously they developed nuclear arsenals as well. And they basically spit roasted the rest of the world, starting with Europe, which was US and Soviet, and then right down Africa as well, and even Latin America as well. They fought over the rest of the world. They spit roasted the rest of the world. And all of the so-called decolonization of Africa, all of that was complete bullshit. There was no decolonization at all. None of it. It's all complete myth. It was all taken over by the Soviets and the Americans. And they're much worse off now because of it. But as a side effect of that, this is the point I'm getting around to, is a side effect of that is that the West actually became, strangely, more egalitarian, more communist. The West became more communist over that period. And all of these things in liberalism, like liberalism kind of faded its way into some of this commie stuff. And there's a whole story about that, of how it got over to the US, and it's a very deep story actually. It's this, yeah. I'm not going to go into that in this live, but the culture that people have been raised in is this egalitarian culture, and of course, evolutionarily speaking, it's complete bullshit. So what do? We have to go back to nature, my brothers. We've got to go back to nature. Got to go back to nature. And so, yeah, what's the solution for these? What's the solution if you've got a professional job? What do? You've got to fake it. You know, you've got to pretend you believe in all this bullshit. What do? Well, I'm not saying quit your job. Obviously, that doesn't make any sense. But you really need to basically deeply accept that most of what you have been told, especially about men and women, you need to deeply, deeply understand it was a fiction. And as I've demonstrated there, it's based on historical events, it's not based on nature, anything in natural selection, anything in evolutionary psychology. It's completely false, it's completely fictional. There is no equality in nature. Men and women are not equal. And there are entire societies where they still pretend that this is the case, like Northern Europe. They're still pretending that this is the case. Highest divorce rates, you know, like really cocked men. And they're still pretending that this is the case. They don't seem to get it. But you need to, if you want to start to succeed, you want to get the young baddie, yeah, you need to drop this nonsense, yeah? Drop it. Grow up, okay? So that's the deep mental realization you have to have. Watch some nature documentaries. I don't know. just do the research. If you really want to do the research, go and do the scientific research if you want. Or just observe behavior, for fuck's sakes. You need to observe men and women for about 2 weeks to realize we're radically unequal, okay? In mentally and psychologically. So drop that. That will be the first thing, to drop that idea and grow up and realize men are men, women are women, and we've got different psychologies and different priorities. The next point is then to start to learn to drop this corporate, thinking, to drop that identity when you leave the office. When you're out at weekends, that stuff needs to drop, and you need to be going into a bolder, more dashing, more seductive mode of behavior, right? So you need to drop the professional nonsense. As soon as you leave the office, the act stops, okay? As soon as you leave, it stops. And don't answer your emails at the weekends either. Go out and have your weekend. Ways you can assist yourself in that process to transition, so to speak, to transition from a eunuch back into a man. Get yourself down to the gym a few times a week. Get yourself, or even if you just, even just as you leave the office, do your push-ups, whatever, do your 50 push-ups for the day. But I think physical activity now is no longer an optional extra, especially for corporate guys. I don't care if you're 50 and you think, oh, I can't build muscle anymore. It's not about that. It's about getting that testosterone pumping around your body. You've still got a lot of testosterone at 50 years old, especially compared to a woman. You've still got like 8 times as much as a 22-year-old woman. You've still got like way more testosterone than a woman. So get that blood pumping, get that test pumping through your system again. Physical activity, yeah? That would probably be my number one tip, actually. That'd be my number one. It's a number one thing. Guys who do well in approach and game, most of them have got, not all, but many have got some kind of a physical background going on. Many of them have. And I think to have longevity, everyone's got to develop it. So that'd be my number one thing to think about, or just to implement. Other things as well is getting yourself around the right guys. Get yourself around the right guys. So, if you just got like your 40s and 50s, and you've just got Andy and Tim in the office who are like the other executive guys, and they're married with kids, and they're just like, they're pussy whipped guys, or even if they've got a good marriage, it's going to be different, right? So you're going to need to find the right type of guys. And these are not going to be guys you're going to find probably in the office. You need to find the right type of guys and start to affiliate, start to associate. And there are guys who are absolute demons in the corporate world as well. I know some of them. So you can find the right guys. So that would be another one, finding the right tribe. And this is something I'm going to be building over the coming years. I'm very excited. This is going to be coming through in January. But I'll be talking more about that towards the end of the month. But yeah, the brotherhoods. Obviously, there's online groups you can join, and I will be starting at least one of them myself. So yeah, affiliating to the right kind of brotherhoods, and then also beginning to think in a more polarized way when you're out in the streets or when you're out socializing. You drop this nonsense of drop the professional nonsense. Be inappropriate. Let me just give you, because the world of getting brownie points and politicizing and politically correctness, it's difficult for me to really communicate how toxic that is. I've lived in nearly 20 different countries. Now, I've lived in 12. I've traveled to over, I don't know how many, 25, something like that. But I've lived in 12 different countries. It's something that's so consistent I've seen is people who are not exposed to that corporate commie culture are a lot more psychologically healthy, and they have better relationships. They're just happier people in general, whether that's in all sorts of different countries as well, whether that's Turkey, whether that's parts of the Balkans, whether that's Latin America. Conversely, people who are stuck in that culture, it's just a miserable, it just makes you a eunuch, basically. As Nietzsche called it, we good Europeans. He actually saw that as, he said that as an insult. So getting yourself around, changing your mindset into the more swashbuckling, inappropriate type of guy, and you'd be much better off for a period of time. Go off the deep end with this. So if you're in the office environment and you feel very constrained, etc., it's very hard to. You'll be constrained when you go out in ways you don't even fully understand. I know this from myself. So what you want to do is jump off the deep end, going in the other direction. Go so far in the other direction that it's sort of like just almost absurd. But that will start to snap you out of that way of thinking. So let me just give you an example from last weekend. I think it was last Saturday. Yes, last Friday and Saturday. I was just out in the mall, did a little mini session both days. I think on the Friday, the last set I did was two girls, and they said we were chatting. One of them was a realtor, and they said, "What do you?" At some point, she asked me what I did, or I think she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a drug dealer," and she looked like a little bit. I said, "I'm a drugs trafficker." She looked a little bit like she just sort of looked shocked, and then. I can't remember how it went on, and then I said no, and I gave her my real job, but just that like little moment of like, and then I came back to it a couple of times as well. I remember I said something about being a Sicario or something. I can't remember what I said, but I was just joking around with it, and it seems like a strange thing to say in your set, right? But like, you're better off going in that direction. It was interesting because the girl really like she fucking practically threw herself at me by the end of the set. That was the best set I did all night, and I was just joking about being a drug dealer. So, yeah, women have this weird fantasy about, some women have this weird fantasy about violence. And look up the term hybristophilia. This is what my lives are all about. There's a term hybristophilia, and it's the female attraction towards extreme violence. So when women they write to men who are in prison and they like want to have their babies and stuff, like actual serial killers. There's no corresponding phenomena in men. There is literally no corresponding phenomena in men. A male is absolutely repulsed by like a female serial killer. It's not hot. It's not cool. It's absolutely disgusting. Or like a female, that type of thing would just be disgusting to a man. But there's a serious phenomena of like, it's called hybristophilia. Again, it shows the differences in our evolutionary psychology. So you don't need to go and become a serial killer, but you get what I'm saying, right? If you're intelligent, you get what I'm saying. Then the next day as well, I thought that was a funny experience. Let me try that line again. And I actually did. And again, it kind of worked. The girl was a bit hesitant to give me her number because she wasn't quite sure if I was being serious or not. They don't really have that, it's British kind of humor a little bit. But she did give me a number. And then later when I messaged her, she was like, yeah, I wasn't quite sure about you, but, you know. So it's interesting. Like even if the girl's not sure, like it's still good to break out of that mold, break out of that identity. So I'd recommend you do this. I recommend you do this. Try throwing yourself in at the other end. Go out to repulse the girl. Go out and say the worst possible, most politically incorrect thing imaginable. Right? Go out and do that. Um, Provoke. I think being provocative for an intelligent man is a good way to go about this. Like being intentionally provocative is a fun way of going about this. So, yeah, those are some tips and tricks if you're in your 40s and 50s. Get yourself a better brotherhood. Snap yourself out of liberal equality. Realize that it's a fiction and it's not how women are evolved. And start being more provocative. Start being more dangerous. Get physical. And this is all a good start. Other things you might want to do, you might want to look at things like how you're dressing. Yeah, I don't think going out with a suit and button-up tie and stuff like that. I don't think that's appropriate for most for day game for most of the time. That's more of a nighttime high-end event thing, but it's not really appropriate for daytime approach. So make sure your kit, make sure the way you're dressed is like it works for daytime approach. Is there anything else? Yeah, so that's the diagnosis of the problems, and there's a cultural aspect to it. I've delineated the history to that. As you can probably tell, I'm a very curious person. I read a lot. I'm a little bit of I wouldn't say I'm a nerd, but I just read a lot. And so I've researched a lot of these things like for years on end to figure out why is this country different, what have they, blah, 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 how history changed things, how the culture changes, how it's imposed, etc. So I understand, I understand where this stuff actually comes from, but it's not very difficult to combat because it's very surface level. And the woman herself is nature. Just remember that woman herself is nature. And so if you can bring out her inner woman, her inner cave girl, she will be eternally thankful to you as well. Because many women are very constrained. Maybe that's just something to mention as well. Many women are very constrained by this as well. If you're in the West, you actually may find yourself liberating some of these women from the bullshit that they're trapped in. When they're young, like students and stuff, they kind of believe it because they're just young and stupid. Usually by about 25, they're starting to clock that it's bullshit. You may find yourself freeing some of these women. There's definitely one or two women, I think, they would probably say that I've freed them. I actually think they would say that. They would resent the fact that it was true, but it would be true. And then also in terms of like the women you go for as well, you want to go for more naturalistic women, in my opinion. You don't want to go for if they're too stuck into the paradigm, just let them ruin their own lives. Just let them. Like it's fine. It's not your issue. Travel as well. Travel around the world. That'll bring more out of you. That was pretty much all I wanted to go through. Just show you Christopher. We'll do this in every single live. Christopher Columbus's house. Yeah, bring out your inner Columbus, your inner Vasco da Gama. Is there anything else? Just to give you details of my service. So I've just kind of given a lecture there on this, but the service that I run is a very practical way of breaking yourself out of this nonsense, and it's through the process of daytime cold approach. I run 3-day immersions where you go out with me and you learn how to daytime approach women effectively. And not average women, very attractive women. I don't let you can approach average women, but I don't let guys off the hook and be like, yeah, you can. No, we're going after the baddies. So you go after very hot women, you stop them in the street, you have a conversation with them, you polarize, you provoke, you flirt, and you get numbers, you get dates, you sometimes get instant dates. And this is a massive, I would describe it as a primal confrontation that men have, mostly with themselves, when they realize, fuck me, I really am pretty conditioned. Because even just going up to a woman in the street romantically, I'm practically having a heart attack here. Yeah, it's most people go in and they're a little bit scared to begin with. It varies between extremely scared and a little bit scared. Um, so, so yeah, so it's this primal confrontation. It's a 3-day immersion where you learn the noble art of cold approach. You become a daytime seducer. And within 72 hours, you go from being essentially, fighting for scraps on Tinder, fighting for scraps in your social life, or having to pay, extortionate amounts, just to be in the right places to find, the girls, the bottles and everything like that, to being privately wealthy, privately wealthy. The streets are your own private income. They're my private income. And what that means is anytime I want, I can just go dip into the streets and I can generate dates, I can generate options. I think I've closed 3 girls this week just in casual walks in the evening. What are we, Thursday? No, 3 since Sunday. 3 since Sunday, all 25 years old. Yeah, all beautiful, all 25 years old. So, and this is just me just going for an evening stroll, not even hitting sessions. And my clients are the same. So the guys that work with me, it's just such an eye-opening experience to realize, holy shit, wow, I didn't realize this was possible. So it rips you out of this paradigm and puts you into a new paradigm. And then you can go back to work and you can play the whole game, but deep down, I've got this much deeper side to me. Okay, so it's a 3-day immersion. You learn the noble art of cold approach. You also get 90 days support as well from me. So if you're going out and you want to go and do some approaches, you can message me before and afterwards. You can even message me while you're out on a little session, and I will certainly, I will respond as soon as humanly possible. You can send me audio breakdowns as well. Some students do that. They record an audio when they're out and they send it to me to listen to. So you get a full 90-day support with me afterwards. This is also important as well. It's nice to have that. It's a bit of a security blanket, so you're not just going away and I'm just like, okay, right, game over now, Joseph, see you later. No, I'm around. Yeah, I'm going to be continuing to support you. Even if that means, in some cases, like there's 1 or 2 clients where I've almost had to, basically, it becomes conflictual in the sense I've got to give them no bullshit feedback, which means that I'm not gonna give them what they want to hear. I'm gonna give them what the correct feedback is. And interestingly, often when that happens, like a few weeks later, big changes occur. So yeah, I give you the right feedback throughout the whole process. And next year as well, I'll also be building the Brotherhood up as well. But for the time being, it's a 3-day immersion plus 90-day support. It's easily enough to get you to an elite level. And to be honest, some guys become elite within a day, dude, for the right guy. And so this is the next thing I'm going to say here. The type of guy I am looking for these immersions, and the type of guy I'm looking to support and work with, has their shit together already. They've already got, their job or their business sorted. They already understand that they need to be working out, they need to be in shape. They already understand they need to have a decent dress code. But they also understand, dude, this is not getting me laid. This is not getting me the batty. This is not getting me the beautiful girlfriend. This obviously isn't enough. And they're mature enough to understand there is more I need to learn here. There's more I need to learn. And the art of daytime approach, it really is an art form. So yeah, that's the type of profile of guy I'm looking to work with. I'm looking for also guys who are psychologically mature as well, who realize that just because a girl has stopped and had a conversation with you and given her number to you, she does not owe you a date. She doesn't owe you the rest of her life. You're not her boyfriend. That's just the first step. And the type of guy who succeeds in this just realizes it's a volume game at the end of the day. However good you are, it's still a volume game. So you put in some volume, you follow up with your leads, and you see what comes through. Okay, so there's a maturity aspect that I need to see as well with guys. Immature people, kids, 18-year-old kids, do not call me. Don't get on a call with me. Okay, this is not for you. This service is for mature guys who've got their shit together and who want to absolutely explode their options, rip off the tie, go out and just reconnect with that inner swashbuckling hero, and consequently become privately wealthy when it comes to women, and to do so using my cold approach system, which is it's the only system which is peer reviewed, because I'm in a group of other guys. We go out and develop this every single week, every single day, and so we've got a peer reviewed system. And so yeah, you are literally getting the best approach technology that exists. You're getting on my immersions for sure, and you're also getting 90-day support as well. On the back end, I also do some consultations with people related to relationship dynamics. So the relationship dynamic I advocate is male leadership, female assistantship. That is the healthiest dynamic. Male leadership, female leadership. If your mind reacts to that as that's sexist or that's negative, this is why you're failing with women. This is why you don't have the women you want. It's because of that mindset itself. Male leadership, female assistantship, even the most feministy type women, they eventually will all have to agree this is the only correct paradigm, it's the only truly healthy male-female paradigm. So men need to step into that leadership role. Sexually, male dominance, female submission. Okay, there's some female doms, but that's a little bit weird. 90% of women are subs. Let's just learn that as well. You do those two things, leads, and then you're also on the dominant side in the bedroom. It's not about how hard, it's not about, you shag them for 7 hours, you've got a 15-inch dick. It's not about that. It's about other things. So that's my relationship model. And I think it's quite, in the West now, that's quite a provocative model, even though it's correct. And so I think guys having an external person who can actually just tell them how to navigate certain things is also very valuable as well. So many stories I have with guys that are confused about a girl's reaction. I'm like, yeah, this is normal. This is female psychology, right? Yeah, so that's the program. As I say, the type of guys I'm looking for are top quality guys who feel they're underperforming in their dating lives because they're kind of locked out of the market. Apps have locked them out because they're over 30 and they're under 6 foot, or just they're over 30. And the social scene, it's not the same in your 40s and 50s. And such a hack for guys in their 40s and 50s is to learn cold approach is such an unfair hack. And you can do it, I think, up to about 60. If you're over 60, you can still do it, but you're gonna have to accept, my friend, like, you're probably not gonna be pulling 25-year-olds. As a 50-year-old, you actually can. You can pull fucking 20-year-olds at 50. It's incredible. But at 60, yeah, I would say that point you're gonna be more, the women over 35 to 40 is gonna be a range, probably, maybe, that type of range. But yeah, if you're 40s and 50s, you can still get this done. If you want to break out of the, corporate mindset, the corpo commie mindset, the late 20th century liberalism nonsense that has wrecked generations of people. Look at the fucking divorce rates. Look at the mental health of American women. I say America because it's the leader of the West. 40% of them are mentally ill. 40% of American women under 35 are mentally ill. 40% have anxiety or depression. It's fucking insane, dude. So obviously, this paradigm has failed, obviously. And then you look at the guys in Northern Europe, the Danes, the Swedes. I'm sorry if any of you are watching this. You guys are the biggest cocks I have ever fucking seen. And even your own women have said this to me and said this to other friends of mine, as friends who I know who moved out there. He's just bulldozing through all these women, and it's just like, because the guys are so passive, right? So yeah, because they've been conditioned in this bullshit way. So boys, let's get back to our roots. Let's get back to our blood and bronze, blood and bone. It's in the DNA, my brothers. We'll leave things there for today. If you do want to work with me, or you want to speak to me, kindly.com/wingbro. As I say, do not book in unless you're a serious guy. I'm only interested in serious guys who actually want to make a shift, who want to make a change, and who are willing to actually be proactive and go out there and make this happen. And if you resonate with my content, you realize there's truth to what I'm saying. And also, don't take my word for it, watch my infields as well. There's like an infield where just like a recent one in Serbia a few months ago where, I'm on an instant date with a girl within 3 minutes of meeting her. This girl from Mexico, 3 minutes, dude. Or there's others from Serbia where I'm closing a girl in like 30 seconds, So you can watch some of those infields. There'll be more coming. Many more coming in the new year, but you can watch those, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually see me in the field, and that is really, honestly, that's not even 1% of what I'm doing. To do in fields, you obviously have to have people filming you and things like that. So it's I can't really show most of what I'm doing, but you get a little taster for it, and you hear me on this channel. If I do resonate with you, you think, yeah, Wingbro is an interesting guy. I actually do want to make this shift. Get on a call, we can talk about it. Right now I'm in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Incredible place for approach, incredible women. I will be in Europe again in the summer. I'll be running my immersions in Belgrade, which is an incredible place to learn. It's a great place to learn. It's quite a challenging place. It's a good level of challenge. It's not too easy, not too difficult. So I'll be in Belgrade again this summer, and in spring, I'm not exactly sure where I'll be. So yeah, if you want to book a call, kindly.com/wingbro. Guys, we'll leave it there. Peace, love. Josefsky, Christopher Columbus. Oh no, yeah, there we go. Christopher Columbus. Where is it? There. Yeah. Take it easy, boys. I'll catch you in the next one.